Thank you, Andy. Lovely to be with you today. Hello to everyone. Yeah, beautiful day in Cape Town where I am, and hopefully the weather is good where you are. Andy, you mentioned something there, going through your preamble there about mental disease. And that's a huge one. I think with the number of people, that are under stress and strain this year, we know that suicides have increased incredibly over the last 5, 6, 7 months. In fact, they say that the rate of suicide actually exceeds the number of people that have died from COVID. So it is mental disease is a major issue, and I don't want to diminish that in any way at all. But I do want to say this, and that is that every single one of us is suffering from mental disease. Every single one of us. How can I say that? Well, the word disease means what? Dis-ease. So hands up all of you right now in a state of absolute bliss and peace and joy and love. And I would guess that no one out there is raising their hands. So we're all in a state of dis-ease. We're not at ease. We're dis-ease. And when you hold dis-ease within your awareness, it manifests physically. It manifests in the body. We know, for example, I do a lot of work with cancer, and we know that the major cause of cancer is stress. And stress-related illnesses are huge, absolutely huge. So I want to start off today's talk by just looking at that dis-ease, at that mental illness that we all have with us. And first of all, it's to look at, in fact, what we're talking about today is a new way of seeing. I believe that as we change how we see, what we see changes. So this talk today is really about gaining a new perception, a paradigm shift in the way you see yourselves and you see the world, because this paradigm shift is necessitated. We can't build a new world on an old consciousness, on an old level of way of seeing the world. We have to start to see the world differently. And as we see the world differently, our actions will change, our thoughts will change, and the world will change as a result of that. So let's have a look at how we identify ourselves, first of all, how we see ourselves. Now, most of us, if we have to ask you, are you a human being? Everyone says, yeah, I'm a human being. But in fact, they don't act like that. Most people identify themselves as a human doing. Yes or no? Most people only know themselves through what they do, through their achievements, through their accomplishments. And if you achieve a lot and accomplish a lot, well, you feel good about yourself, don't you? But when there are times when we're not able to achieve at that level, when we don't accomplish, we can't always be first. And then what happens to our sense of self-worth? It gets greatly diminished. And the reason for that is because we don't know that we're a human being. We really believe we're a human doing. And we value ourselves and we value other people on their doingnesses. And that is a mental disease. It's mad. It's completely mad, because you're not a human doing. You are a human being. The problem, though, is that you can't control people when they know that they're a human being. You can control people when they believe they are a human doing, because then that creates a sense of not enough. It creates a sense of a wonderful word, fear. And what drives most people in their lives is not the joy of living, but it's the fear of dying. And when I say the fear of dying, I mean the dissolution, not only of the physical form, but also of who I think I am, of my ego, of my personality. And so, I mean, what drives this? You've mentioned the COVID-19. COVID-19 has not damaged the economy at all, not at all. What has damaged the economy is fear. It's our response to a situation called a virus. And it's not the virus that's created the economic hardships that we find ourselves in. It's the response to the virus. And that response has been fear-based. And just touch on that very briefly, I do a lot of wellness coaching and I work in groups. And we know that the human body is a magnificent mechanism. It deals with millions and millions of viruses every single day, millions of bacteria every day. And what enables you, number one, to sort out any virus is not a mask, it's not social distancing, and it's not sanitization. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying let's look at number one in sorting out a virus is your immune system. And sadly, that is not talked about on the media. It's not broadcast on TV. There is so much we can do to protect ourselves from viruses through upping our immune system. And I mentioned earlier, one of the things that nails our immune system is fear. When we're in a state of fear, our immune system becomes compromised, and pathogens can take place and take hold in the body. So I think if any of you are interested in beating this virus, then number one, you should be researching nutrition, you should be researching vitamins, you should be researching ways to boost your immune system. Your body knows how to take out viruses. And right now, I believe that we are past the peak. I think the peak of the virus was in April already, and that our bodies have already built up a natural immunity to this virus. But what we haven't built up a natural immunity to is an even worse virus than COVID-19, and that is the virus of fear. If you think about it, fear is transmitted to us. It's very catching, isn't it? And we pass it on to other people with what we say and what we do. Am I right? So I would think that the virus that we really need to be focusing on is now this virus of fear. I just want to share a slide with you, if I may do that. If I can just share this. Let's just share a screen. So let's just have a look at this. Let's go back. Most people live their lives in a state of fear. People eat from fear. People exercise from fear. Fear of being unfit, fear of getting fat, fear of the body diminishing, but it's fear that drives that. People actually be good from fear. People stay in relationships and careers from fear. Yes or no? That's a huge one. And hang on a minute. If you are continually focused on fear, and if you're pushing away from something, guess what? It grows. It grows in your awareness. It dominates you. It rules you. It controls your whole life. Fear. Now, fear is an acronym. My acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. And the false evidence appearing real are I am what I do. I am that human doing this. I am what I have. I am all my accumulations and my achievements. I am what other people think of me. And you're none of that. And how can I say that? Well, I mean, for example, in my own case, I built up my early career and I was a director of a company, and, I had people having to make appointments to see me and wait in line to see me because I was a very important person. And that, at the age of 33, that whole corporation went down the tubes. It was a whole, anyway, I won't go into the story of what happened. It was a macro environmental issue that happened there. But suddenly I wasn't that. Suddenly I wasn't this important person. Suddenly I didn't have a name on my office door. Suddenly I didn't even have an office. And I realized that I was exactly still me, the me that I'd always been, without the label, without that position, without what people thought of me. I was still exactly the same inside. And that was a huge realization. And this word fear is what drives the modern world. And it's something that is given to us. It's spread like a virus for one purpose and one purpose only, to control you. People can be controlled through fear. We know through studies on brainwashing, for example, and psyops, that if you want to brainwash someone, you have to take them into a place of fear and anxiety. When people are in a state of fear and anxiety, they can be brainwashed. Now, if you just think of the media, what is the purpose of media? Well, it's obviously to entertain you and to inform you, isn't it? No, not at all. The purpose of the media is to sell you something, to sell you products. That's how it survives. It survives on advertising. Even if it's a physical product like a shampoo or a toothpaste, it survives on selling that to you. Now, to put you into the state where you're the most receptive to the advertising, you have to be in a state of not good enough. If I'm not good enough, I need a product outside of me to make me fulfilled. And so fear does that. So the primary tool that the media uses to manipulate and control its viewers or its readers, is this word fear. And I would suggest that right now we need to make a very, very, very important decision in our lives. Do we want to still worship the energy of fear to be controlled, or do we want to start to live lives of freedom, of self-control? Now, the other path, the one path is fear, which is the path that the world is going down here at a rapid rate. The other word that I'm going to use to describe an alternative is a word, also a four-letter word, and that is love. And right now, I believe humanity is at a junction, and we get to choose between fear and love. And the truth is that only one of them is real. You see, fear stands for false evidence appearing real, where love is real. Now, we have been caught in a dream of I am what I do, I am what I have, I am what other people think of me, I am born on this date, I'm going to live my life, and then I'm going to die. That is the falseness of identity, because you're not that. You're something greater, more magnificent, more perfect, more eternal than any of that. And maybe some of you believe you are your physical body. Well, let's look at that misperception for a moment. So right now, look at your body. Okay, now, is it the same body you had on 5 years ago? Not at all. Hang on a minute. So your body has completely changed in 5 years. Well, go back 10 years. Go back 20 years. Your body is nowhere. Every 8 months, every single cell in your body is replaced. But you are still here. You are always here. Your cells come and your cells go. Every time you breathe out 10 to the power of 22 atoms. That is 10 with 22 zeros on the end. Your body is continually in process all the time. You inhabit the body. You put on this wonderful meat suit when you wake up in the morning, and you go through your busy day, and at night you leave your meat suit again. Next morning you inhabit a slightly different meat suit. You have been incarnated many times already in this lifetime. You had a 6-month-old baby body. You had a 1-year-old baby body. You had a 10-year-old body. You had an 18-year-old body. Remember that? That lovely, strong, beautiful body that you had. And now you have the body that you have on today. Your awareness does not die every time you lose cells in your body. Your awareness is eternal. And that is your beingness. Your beingness is the part of you that is more eternal than your doingness, than your physical body. But because we don't honor that with our attention at all, we continually live in a state of fear. And that is very sad. That isn't the way to live your life. I must confess something here. I lived my life like that for many years until I decided not to. And today I do not really know what fear is. I was mugged twice on the beach, and there was not an ounce of fear in that process. In fact, I was like, there was joy bubbling to the surface at how interesting this experience was. I do not worry. And Andy, you listened to my radio talk on worry. Worry is something I do not do anymore, because I chose a different path a few years ago, 20 years ago, and that is the path of love. Fear is about separation. It's about division. It's about me having my needs met rather than you getting your needs met. And it's false. It is destructive. And if we do not change the path we're currently on, there's a Chinese proverb that says, if you don't change the path you're on, you're going to end up where you're headed. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And where does fear lead us? It leads us to total control by an outside force and destruction of the humanity that we know ourselves to be. So this talk that we're giving this afternoon is maybe getting you to see yourself slightly differently, because as you see yourself slightly differently, you start to see others around you slightly differently. They don't become objects of meeting your needs or defending yourself from. They become part of you. They become part of your journey, because love is a sense of oneness in your awareness. While fear is a sense of separation, love is a sense of connection. And I would just look at what is happening this year, what's going down this year. We've been forced more into separation, haven't we? It's about separation, social distancing, being scared of other human beings in case they transmit to you some deadly virus that's going to kill you. Well, I mean, the current stats show that you've got a 1 in 2 million chance of dying from COVID. However, you've got a 1 in 2 chance of dying from cancer. Which one are you more scared of? Which one are you protecting yourself from? Do you spend every day protecting yourself from cancer? 1 in 2 chance of dying from cancer. 1 in 2 million chance of dying from COVID. Why is this not on the news? Because the news is not there to inform you. It's there to control you. It's there to get you to buy stuff, to buy maybe an ideology, maybe to buy a vaccine, maybe to buy into dominance. I mean, these are all things that fear leads you to. Love is completely differently. And I believe that if we do not choose the path of love, we will find ourselves in a very sticky situation in the very near future. So that's just the preamble to my talk. Believe it or not, that wasn't going to be part of my talk, but I just thought I would come in on that. Now, there's a law in the universe. Let me just get out of here. Let me just exit this. I'm going to stop that share. Yes, let me just share this with you. Love is your feeling of connection, while fear is your feeling of separation. And that word feeling is really, really important. If you think about your life, it's not what you accumulate. It's what you feel about what you accumulate. It's not the accumulation of lovers that's important. It's what you feel about your lover. It's not how many children you have. It's what you feel about the children that you have. It's not about your career. It's what you feel about your career. The secret of life is in the feeling. And if you choose the feeling of fear, that will take you in a certain direction. If you choose the feeling of love, it'll take you in a completely different direction. And we do have that choice to make. That is our choice. I'm going to exit this now because I'm not going to share that with you in a moment. I'm going to come back. You can look at my pretty face for a moment. Okay, so that was the preamble. I just want to touch on the 3 R's that are impacting in our lives right now, and that is retrenchments, reduced income, and what about residency, working from home. Those are the 3 R's, and they are having an impact on us psychologically, but also in relationship. Now, I believe that relationships are actually the cement that gives meaning to our whole life. It's what glues everything together. It's relationship, isn't it? It's very, very important. And when we have challenging outside situations, they will affect that cement. They will affect those relationships that we have, both the personal, intimate ones, and also those of our surrounding colleagues. When we are in a state of fear, do you think we are in a better state to connect with people or disconnect from people? Do you think we're better able to solve problems or less able to solve problems when we're in a state of fear? And it's obvious. When you go into a state of fear, you access the old part of the brain. It's called the reptilian brain, the fight or flight part of the brain. It's not very intelligent at all. What it does, something happens and you react. No, you don't even think about it. You put your hand on a hot stove, you pull your hand off, and then, a couple of milliseconds later, you say, wow, that was hot. You weren't even aware of how hot it was when you pulled your hand off, because that's an automatic response. And most people live their lives on fear, and they're living their lives on that automatic response. The mother-in-law says something, you respond. There's no conscious choice in that moment. Something comes up on TV and you feel angry. There's no conscious choice in it at all. Your partner says something and you feel worthless, and you're not choosing to feel worthless. You're not choosing to feel angry. That is because you are living your life from fear, from the old part of the brain. And what you have done when you do that is you hand your power to the world. You say, here, world, you run my life. You control my feelings. And I don't have any say in how I feel. I can try and manipulate circumstances so that circumstances bring me a certain feeling. But ultimately, my feelings are always predicated on the world out there being a certain way. And then what we do is we, as human doings, we strive every day to try and change the circumstance to protect all those buttons, all those vulnerabilities, all those soft spots that we have, so that they don't get pushed, so our buttons don't get pushed. So we don't go and see the mother-in-law. We get divorced away from our partner, and we find a new company, rather than going and changing ourselves. And I think if there is something to be changed in the world, it's not necessarily the government, it's not even your mother-in-law, it's yourself. You have to change how you see the government, how you see your colleagues, and how you see those loved ones, those special relationships that you have in your life. And that is why I said today is about creating a new paradigm of seeing. If you see yourself only having worth in what you do and what you achieve and what you accumulate, you will always be subject to fear. The fear of loss, the fear of not good enough. However, when you start to honor your beingness, which is always here, you start to find that your beingness is good enough. Your beingness can't be improved. I mean, the beingness that you had when you were 10 is the same beingness you have today. It hasn't grown, it hasn't got better, it's beingness. Another word for it, by the way. So this word beingness isn't a thing. You're not a thing. Beingness, what looks through your eyes, isn't a thing. It might look through a thing called an eye, but what's looking through your eye isn't a thing. And another word to describe this beingness is the word life. You are life. Another word which I love because it hasn't been misused is the word isness. You are isness. And another word for isness is presence. Presence is such a powerful, powerful concept. In fact, I know in the Christian faith, in the Bible, they talk about God being omnipresent. Well, I'm going to say that God is presence. That energy of life is it. It's presence. And guess what animates your body? It's life. You are that beingness, that beautiful, perfect beingness, trying to be a human doing, always looking for doingness to bring it. And it works up to a stage, and then suddenly your body starts decaying, or your career goes flat, or your relationships cease. And then you fall apart. And in the falling apart, you start to realize there's part of me that isn't falling apart. There's part of me that's more eternal. Now, the distance between now and then, and you will get it because, you know, when you're 5 minutes before you die, you suddenly realize that all your achievements amounted to nothing. The distance between now and when you do get it, that you are not the doing, that you are the being, is just a journey of pain and suffering. And the choice you really have to make in life is, do you want more pain and suffering? And the reason I ask that is because this is not a choice only that affects you. Because the world out there, the world that you find yourself in, is a mirror of your own beliefs and your own perceptions. Now, if you don't like the mirror in your bathroom, you know, you look at it and you say, I look terrible, and you take the mirror back to Discam or Game, and you go and buy a new mirror and you put the new mirror up, hoping it's going to look different. Well, it's maybe like a different frame around it, but what it's reflecting will be exactly the same. You don't like that one either. You take it back, you demand your money back, and you go to, you know, a more upmarket shop, you know, and you can spend a lot more money on a better mirror, and you bring it home and you put it up. It's exactly the same. The world out there is a mirror. So we change our relationships, we change our jobs, and yet they carry on being mirrored back to us. So we get rid of this particular meat suit and we get a new, younger meat suit. And after a year, they turn into the old meat suit. The same responses, because they're mirroring yourself. So if you don't like what you see in the mirror, what do you have to change? Yourself. You've got to change what's being reflected. And the change isn't in improving your personality, because that's what the mind says. I need to improve my thingness, my personality. No. It's about recognizing who and what you really are. Here's the deepest truth. You are love. Now think about that. What do we search for more than anything else in this world, this human world? Is it not love? Does not love drive us to do so much in our lives? And we're busy searching for it in our doingness, in our accumulationness, in our achievements. And yet love is our beingness. Love is the recognition of that. It's the recognition of your true worth. Outside of your body, outside of your race, outside of your culture, outside of your accomplishments, you are a human being. And the recognition of that, the full recognition of that, gives you freedom. While fear always imprisons you, the recognition of beingness, which is love, frees you. Love is the answer to whatever the question. Love is the answer. So just think about that. Now, what separates us from this love? What separates us from other things? What creates the stress within us when we get retrenched, when our salary gets lowered, when we have to work at home and there's this conflict? in time management. Where's the real problem? It's in our minds. Now, our minds generate about 60,000 thoughts a day. I counted them one day when I was bored. Between 40 and 70,000 thoughts a day our mind generates. And it's not the work that's a problem. It's not the retrenchment that's a problem. It's not even the mother-in-law that's a problem. It's our thoughts about the work. It's our thoughts about the bank account. And in life, I mean, the reason I find it impossible to worry now, because if there's something to be done, I do it. If there's nothing to be done, I leave it. I mean, what is the point in going through these, generate these thoughts, generating over and over and over again, hoping to find a solution, when in fact, when the solution comes, it didn't come out of your thinking. It came out of awareness. Awareness and being are exactly the same. It just comes to you. The solution comes to you. Some of the greatest inventors on the planet have relied upon this. People like Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. People like Albert Einstein. He said thinking had very little to do on the path to discovery. It came from this intuitive awareness that he had within us. And that's the greatest realization. We rely upon the mind and our thoughts to sort out the world. But in fact, the world is pretty much a mess because of the mind. And the reason is not because the mind is a problem. It's not that. It's because we don't have a mind. The mind has us. The mind owns us. 2 o'clock in the morning, the mind is still going and says, I want to sleep. And the mind says, no, we really need to think about this problem, this challenge that we have. And so it is the mind that's our problem. When you realize this, when you start to see that that which you thought was your salvation is actually the criminal involved, then you can start to live your life differently. You can think, for example, if you have a conflict with your spouse, it's not the spouse that's a problem. It's your thoughts about the spouse that's a problem. It's your thoughts about the situation that's a problem. And when you start to realize, hang on a minute, they're my thoughts. I'm not here. I wasn't put on this world to control my spouse. I know a lot of women think that, before a man is married, he's incomplete. And once he's married, he's finished. No, that's not. Our job isn't to change our partner into someone we want them to be. Our real work is to change our mind about it, to change our expectations, to change our beliefs. We change that. Now, we can do that because it's in our control. We can't change anyone else around us. You can't. They're boss of their life. No one made you boss of the universe. But you are boss of your own internal universe. And when you start to realize that you have the power to change your mind, you have the power to change how you feel, you start to live an empowered life. And from that realization, there's a tremendous, and I won't go into today, we have such a huge power within us to create the external world. But it has to be created from love, not from fear. Your thoughts have true creative potential. We know from quantum physics that what you think can manifest in the world around you, and does manifest in the world around you. I have two kids. Well, I've got 4 kids, but 2 of them went off to London. They lived in the same suburb in London, in Queen's Park. My son carries a lot of fear with him, and he was mugged 5 times by youngsters walking down that road in London. My daughter, who carries no fear in her, was not mugged once walking down the same road. Now, the difference is not the circumstances, but how they feel about the circumstances. Just a brief aside there, just to know that you are incredibly powerful at influencing not only how you experience life, but the life you experience through your thoughts and through your feelings. The current company that I have, which I started 21 years ago, is called Mind Enhancement Systems. Because back then I thought it was all about improving your mind. And I used to run brain power courses, mind power courses. And that's good. It is good. However, if the mind is not under your control, it's going to be a tyrannical master. You have to make the mind your servant. And that is what we need to do here. Otherwise, every time the economy goes up, you'll be high, and every time the economy goes down, you'll be depressed and wanting to commit suicide. Every time your partner is nice to you, you'll feel good. Every time your partner is bad to you, you'll feel bad. And then you are not in control of your life. You're not in control with how you feel, because I said earlier that life is about how you feel about life. Not what happens to you, but how you feel about what happens to you. And if the world out there is in control of how you feel, the world's in control of you. So to create empowerment, you have to start to be mindful, that's the word, of how you're feeling, and start to bring your awareness out of your story into reality, into here and now. So what I'd like to do with you is just share, I've got 7 golden keys to improving your relationships, to living conscious relationships as against unconscious relationships. When I talk about unconscious, the old part of the brain, the reptilian brain, that's your subconscious. No conscious thought. Your conscious thoughts in your prefrontal part of your brain. And this is where most of your thinking happens, in your other part of the brain. And you're not doing the thinking. The mind is doing the thinking for you based on old programs that are running. This is where you get to choose new programs in your prefrontal cortex of your brain. So this is about shifting your life through shifting your awareness. So let's just have a look at what I've jotted down here for conscious relationships. 7 golden keys, and these are up on my website. I'll tell you how to access this in the moment if you want to go on there. You don't have to write them down. Oops, let's go back a bit. Number 1, and if you only hear this from me today, this one step will change your life. Number 1, eliminate all criticism, blame, and judgment of the other and yourself. Who is your worst critic? Think about this. It's yourself, isn't it? Think about that. Now, if you had a best friend and your best friend spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would you still have a best friend? I think not. I think not. So when I talk about criticism and blame and judgment, be very mindful of how you criticize yourself, how you blame yourself, how you judge yourself from the moment you wake up in the morning. And that will be mirrored in the world around you. So that will be reflected onto other people. You know, if you have a feeling that you're too fat, too tall, or too short, that's what you're going to see in the world. Tall people, fat people, short people. That's what you're going to see out there, because that's a criticism that you hold within you towards yourself. So step number 1 is eliminate criticism. What is the point of criticism, blame, and judgment? Can you tell me? It's to improve your ego. It's to make your ego bigger. Look at me, I'm better than them. And one way of diminishing that attachment, it's just 3 words. When you criticize someone or judge someone, just add 3 words after that sentence. Just like me. Just like me. And that pops the ego. Boom, ego's gone. That's a wonderful way. So number 1, eliminate all criticism, blame, and judgment, because they do not achieve anything of any value in your life. They achieve nothing. What they do is they just improve your ego, and your ego is about separation. If love is what you want, it's a sense of connection, not disconnection. And if you want connection, eliminate criticism, blame, and judgment. Number 2 is own your own feelings. How you feel is your business, and how someone else feels is their business. That's a big one. When someone does something to you, let's say your spicy spouse is putting blame on you, and you get angry, and you say, "You make me so angry." Well, really? Do they make you angry? Or do they do something that you process in your awareness that makes you angry? I'm going to suggest that it's not their doingness that makes you angry. What their doingness does is it squeezes you, and what's on the inside comes out. Think about that. If you've got an orange in your hand and you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Pear juice? Mango juice? I think not. What comes out when you squeeze an orange is orange juice. Why? You didn't make the orange juice. You don't know the chemical composition of an orange juice. But what you did is squeeze the orange, and what was on the inside came out. So when your spouse squeezes you and anger comes out, what you should do is go to them and say, "Thank you. I didn't even know I had that button. I didn't even know I had that anger inside me. So thank you for pressing that button. Now I know I've got it, and my awareness can heal it." Instead of blaming them for creating the anger in you, you take full responsibility for how you feel. And that is a big one. For example, if it's rainy weather makes you miserable, no, the rain isn't making you miserable. It's your perception, your thoughts about the rain that makes you miserable. And when you realize that, you say, wow, I can't control the weather, but I can definitely control my thoughts about the weather. And that's a big one. That is a big one. Number 3, always make the present moment more important to you than past or future. That is a golden key, an absolute golden key. We tend to make the past and future more important than the present. When you meet someone and you fall in love and you gaze lovingly into their eyes over a candlelit dinner, where is the past? Where is the future in that moment? It's not there. You're here, right with them right now. But after 26 years of marriage, where's the presence? Presence is gone. It's all about yesterday. It's all about tomorrow. Am I right? So what destroys love is too much time and not enough presence. Too much time and not enough isness. Too much time and not enough being. That destroys relationship. It doesn't matter whether it's an intimate relationship with your children or with a work colleague. It's exactly the same. If you want to give your children the best present you can, give them presents. Don't give them plastic things that come from China. Give them your presence. That changes everything. If you want to rekindle the love with your intimate other, give them your presence, not your mind, not your thoughts, not your expectations, not your blame, not your judgment. Give them your undivided presence. And that brings back love. It opens the door for love to flow again. So always make, it doesn't matter what aspect of your life you're dealing with, always make the present moment more important to you than either past or future. Number 4, this is a big one, make listening twice as important than responding or defending. Now, when most people listen, they're not listening. They're actually working out a strategy to get their needs met in a response, or they're working out a strategy to defend their position. Am I right? They're not listening. True listening is becoming still and quiet inside. So right now, just try this exercise. See what the faintest, furthest sound is that you can hear right now. It may be traffic noise, maybe the hum of your computer. Notice that your mind had to go quiet to hear that. Am I right? If you approach your work colleague with a quiet mind like that, you will really hear what's being communicated to you. And it might not come from their mouth, it might come from their body language. When you approach your children with that quiet presence, everything changes. When you approach your lover with that quiet presence, everything changes. Very important to make listening twice as important than responding or defending. Number 5, be authentic and allow the other to be who they are. We always want to change the other. Be authentic. And when I say be authentic, be the beingness inside you that doesn't need defending, doesn't need to improve itself. You are perfect already. You know, there are how many countless billions of universes out there? There's only one of you on this little planet called Earth. You are completely unique. Don't try and be like anyone else. Honor your uniqueness. You are perfect and beautiful exactly as you are. You are here because the universe birthed you. And that's how important you are. Without you, the universe wouldn't be the same. It couldn't be the same as it is. That's how unique you are. Honor that. And when you work from that authentic beingness rather than the needy human doing that always needs something from the world out there. Allow others to be exactly who they are as well. That opens the door for love to flow. And everything changes when you work with love. Many years ago, there was a chain of pizzas that opened up in Cape Town. It's called Prima Piatti. And they wore orange overalls. And stenciled on the back of the overalls was a saying. It says, work is love made visible. Think about that. Work is love made visible. That comes from a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, which I read as a young teenager. In fact, it goes everywhere with me. It's in my laptop bag. It's a book that I've lived my whole life on. Work is love made visible. It's not meant to be a struggle. It's not meant to be a strain. It's not meant to give you ulcers and sleepless nights. It's meant to be a joyous dance, an expression of your creativity. And it can be if you stop seeing yourself as a human doing and start to appreciate your beingness. You're way more intelligent when you're in a beingness than when you're in a doingness, when you're in a worrisome state. When you're in a beingness, you open up to what's called super consciousness, super awareness, the eureka moment. It's called genius. That comes from, not from doing, it comes from being. That's what genius comes from. Be authentic, be still, be quiet inside. Despite the movements on the outside, you can be rushing to catch a plane or a train and be quiet on the inside. That's your choice. And number 6, forgive each moment as it occurs, let it go. That's a biggie. That's a big one. Don't we love to hold on to the past so we can use it for ammunition in the future to get our needs met? That's a big one. No, let each moment go. Forgive it. Let it go. That's a big one. Forgiveness opens the door for love to flow. If love is what you want, love promises you nothing, but delivers everything to you, everything of value. Fear, on the other hand, promises you everything and delivers you nothing. Well, think about that one. And then number 7, this is a big one in relationships, intimate relationships. This is not work relationships, this is intimate relationships. Set aside, schedule 2 10-minute conversations each week. This is a big one. So what you do is you say, well, Thursday night from 8 o'clock until 10 past 8, we're going to have an intimate discussion. You get 5 minutes, I get 5 minutes. While the other is talking, you don't defend, you don't interrupt, you allow them to talk, and then you get your 5 minutes to talk. And all you do is you say exactly how you feel, you express your authentic self without blaming, without judging, you just express yourself. You don't need in your 5 minutes to defend what they said about you in their 5 minutes. It's a waste of time. Let them express themselves and let you express yourselves. 2 of those every week will transform every relationship from a fear-based relationship into a love-based relationship. What it does, it releases the pressure valve. And in engineering, maybe you know about building up too much pressure. You release the pressure valve. Those 7 keys on my website. If you go to my website, I have a double CD, which is an audible download. It's called The Power of Presence in Relationships. The Power of Presence in Relationships. If you just put that into the search bar on my website, it's johnhomewood.net. You put The Power of Presence in Relationships, and on that page, these 7 keys are there, so you can get them there. I think we have, do we have another few minutes, or do we want to go to some questions from the listeners?
Let's first see if there's any questions, John, and then if not, then you may continue.
Okay.
Say or ask anything. Okay, in the absence of seeing hands, I think you may continue, and then at the end, we'll wrap up with the questions. Thanks, John.
All right. Well, hopefully the no question comes because I've blown everyone's mind away. Because questions come from the thinking mind, don't they? The need for more, the need for more understanding, for example. We often think that if we had more understanding, we'd be happier. But one thing I know in all of my life journey is that understanding brings you a little bit, but it doesn't bring you what you really want. It doesn't bring you peace, doesn't bring you love, doesn't bring you joy, not understanding. All of that, love, peace, joy, fulfillment, comes from being, not from understanding. Understanding is part of the mind. There's if you want to know about the mind and the mind matrix, what I call the mind matrix, and if you'd like to live your life very differently to how you have lived, there's a couple of YouTube clips up. If you just Google John Homewood, The Matrix, and on YouTube, and there's a presentation I do on the mind, on the matrix. You see, the matrix is very much about time and about fear and about achievement. And to step out of the matrix, it takes presence. And you see, the horizontal plane, the plane of born, doing, and dying, is how most people live. The vertical plane is being. It intersects the doing line, but it intersects it in a magical way. This is the depth of life. And so what I suggest in all the work that I do is I help people come into the vertical plane to live their lives here instead of always chasing the future. When we chase the future, it's because we're not good enough in this moment. This present moment is not good enough. So we're saying to life, which is here in this moment, sorry, life, I haven't got time for you because I'm going to a thought in my mind about an imagined future. And so we disconnect from life. And that disconnection, if you disconnect your body from life for too long, the body goes diseased. Think about that. If you're connected with life, if you're present, you enable your body to function perfectly. Your digestion improves, your heart rate improves, your blood pressure improves, even your cognitive function improves. But when you go into the future and you're stressed, you rob the body of that connection with life. And if you're not connected to life, how can you love? If you're not connected to love, how can you truly live a fulfilled life? We're all postponing it for a later time when I'm going to connect with life, when I've achieved this or done that, or got a new partner, or got better kids, or they've got put the kids through school and university and whatever. I'm sitting in my old age home now, then I'm going to have to. No, it never happens. It's the desiring for something other than this moment, which always creates a disease in us. And that disease will not only affect you physically and mentally, psychologically, it'll also infiltrate your careers and infiltrate, more importantly, your relationships. If you carry dis-ease within you, if you're not at ease, that disease, that dis-ease will come out in how you interact with those around you. Any questions? What do we have here? I'm going to adopt the word "my spice" to that's lovely. I like that. I like that comment. That's very good. Yeah, I think we've covered quite a lot here. I think we're going to end on that point. I just want to reiterate that each one of us individually has a choice to make. And the choice is, do you want to carry on worshiping the God of fear, the God of false evidence appearing real, the God of I am what I do, I am what I have, and I am what other people think of me? Or I'm going to change direction and worship the God of love, because that is the fundamental human choice that we get to make individually and collectively. And I believe there are certain very evil forces. And when I use the word evil, I mean unconscious. In fact, it's consciousness devoid of love is what evil is. Consciousness devoid of love is evil. And there are some forces on planet Earth which are so nefarious and so evil. They want to control and dominate, and they do it through brainwashing you through fear. And our choice as an individual and as a species is to choose differently, because they have no power over love. They have no power over your human beingness. They only have power over your human doingness. And as we start to refocus our awareness, there's a law in the universe, by the way, that says whatever you put your attention on expands. Whatever you put your attention on expands. If you, for example, are going to have a baby, what comes into your awareness? Prams and pushchairs and babies and pregnant people and all of that. Suddenly you're aware of all of that. Am I right? If you're buying a new car, what comes into your awareness? Well, there's the make and model and color, because that's what you're putting your attention on. So in the past, we put our attention on false evidence appearing real, on fear. And I'm just asking you all to start seeing the world differently, start seeing yourself differently, and start focusing on what it is you really, really want in life, which surely is love, and start living from that space. Mahatma Gandhi says you have to be the change you desire to see in the world. If you want peace, and if you want joy, and you want love in your life, you have to be it. You have to make a conscious choice to steer your awareness, your consciousness back to that point, moment to moment to moment. Is what I'm doing out of fear, or is what I'm doing based on love and connection and care? And that the new world will be created from us as individuals, and it'll be dependent upon what we sow. If you sow pumpkin seeds, you're going to reap pumpkins. If you sow tomato seeds, you're going to sow tomatoes. What we're doing is sowing seeds of fear and hoping to reap love. It doesn't work like that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.